we see a man reading passionately from the Bible out loud to himself. A noise distracts him, so he goes to look at what it was. In another room, he seems to witness himself murdering a lady. Then they vanish, while he continues to stand still. After that, another man enters the house. He sees the man from before has ended. Along with him, another body lies in bed. The man who arrived authoritatively tells the doctor there to clean what he can and burn the rest. To give a particular charm to the beginning of the film, we get to see a man dancing with a lady for some time. 3 years later, a lady rides in a car with her daughter. The lady is Marion, and her daughter is Adelaide. When they arrive at a sophisticated house, they are met by Linus, Marion's husband. Once inside, Linus expresses how glad he is that she came to join him there. We see he is a vicar. Later, he enters his room to find her sitting on the bed. The sight of her sitting there seems to make him nervous. It is unknown how long they have not been together, but their separation is probably a factor for why he's nervous. Marion tries to calm him by saying they are married. She also reassures him that it's the will of God for two married people to be together. While they kiss, Linus stops due to discomfort. He lets her know that he needs some time, which makes her leave. Alone now, he reads a passage from the Bible about love. We see that he isn't just nervous, but he also believes intimacy to be sinful. As Marion is brushing her hair, someone looks at her through a hole. She hears something, thinking it is Linus. It prompts the lady to put on her robe. Looking through the hole, she sees a lady passing. We then follow that lady as she walks in a very different environment. It looks like an asylum. Strangely enough, the lady turns out to be Marion, looking at herself through the peephole. Currently, it cannot be understood what just took place. On perhaps the next day, Marion leaves the cinema with Adelaide. A man smoking observes them from a distance. As they walk, Marion starts talking to some man. Linus happens to be there to see her do it. We see that he feels uneasy about it. In church, he talks to himself, asking why God allows evil to exist. After saying a few more words, someone stands near the entrance, applauding him. It is the man who was watching Marion with Adelaide. He walks toward Linus and starts talking to him boldly, not holding back before the vicar. After stating Linus's name, the vicar is surprised that he knows it. Yet the man claims to know many things. He says the house that Linus is currently living at is playing tricks on his wife's mind. To this, Linus gets angry and starts taking the stranger out. However, the man feels that he needs to inform Linus of his condition. He seems to have a rather strong desire to impose this duty. He continues by saying that 3 years ago, 2 bodies were buried in a tomb kept by the church on the bishop's orders. He also says those people were the previous tenants of his house. They were Beatrice and Stanley Hall. Linus does not believe this, saying the couple emigrated to Australia. If he does not believe him, he can investigate the tomb himself, is the man's response. Once he says Linus should do it for his beautiful wife, the vicar tosses him out in fury. Lying outside, the stranger informs him that Beatrice lost her mind living there. She turned to a life of indecent actions. That is why her husband took her life. Linus's final response to everything he has heard is shutting the door on the rude and intrusive man. He seems to leave an impression of being a character with unknown intentions. His forthcoming attitude also establishes him as someone who has an insight into certain relevant matters. The next scene has Adelaide sitting with her dolls while talking to them. We also see 3 strange covered dolls who are not part of her tea party. Then Linus walks somewhere, only to see a barred-off underground area. It is perhaps the tomb the man spoke of. Even though he did not want to listen to him, we see there was a curious part of him that did. Back at the house, Marion plays a game with her daughter. It is a game that requires her to look away before looking back at Adelaide. The 3rd time, Marion turns around again to discover the girl has vanished, so she starts looking for her. In the basement, she uncovers a mirror. That is when Adelaide scares her from behind. Once they leave, we see another Marion in the mirror, dressed in white. Following that, Linus looks through a Bible to discover it has been desecrated. He comes to another room, where he finds his wife sitting with Bishop Malachi. Marion starts talking about matters that bring discomfort to Linus. Though the bishop allows her to speak her mind, she leaves due to her husband's discomfort. Linus apologizes for her behavior. When Malachi sees the Bible, Linus tells him it is desecrated. Malachi replies that Stanley was a troubled man. He continues to say that Marion is strong. It becomes revealed through him that she gave her daughter away. Furthermore, he tells Linus he did well to save her. Afterward, the bishop starts talking about a pagan around town whose godlessness is dangerous. Right after saying those words, he becomes infuriated and wreaks havoc on the pool table. He gives some materials to Linus, stating they are for him to educate himself with. Before leaving, Malachi wants Linus to call him if he sees the man again. After the conversation, we are left wondering why Marion gave her daughter away. Additionally, how did her husband save her? During mealtime, the family talks about how the fascists are taking control by force. Marion wants to do something about it, but Linus doesn't. After sending their daughter away, Betsy, the housemaid, comes to clean after her. Linus tells her to leave and yells at her when she takes too long. When they are alone, he tells Marion he doesn't want her to speak to guys like the one he saw her speak to. He tells her she is his wife, a statement she instantly questions. She lets him know that a deed is worth more than a word before leaving the table. Then she comes to see Adelaide standing near a mirror. The girl runs to her mother, yet her reflection still stands there. Later, Marion comes to her room to have her daughter explain to her the game she plays with her dolls. Seeing the other strange dolls, which Adelaide did not mention, Marion asks about them. At that point, the girl says something odd. She tells her that her mom says not to go there. This confuses Marion, who tells her she is her mom. Adelaide disagrees with that, even screaming that her mother is a liar. To such impulsive behavior, Marion carries her into bed, where the girl yells she hates her. This unforeseen episode brings tears to the mother's eyes. While she sleeps at night, a glass moves on top of her drawer. Soon, a noise wakes her up. She looks outside and sees a robed individual standing there. Betsy is also there, cutting plants. This frightens Marion, forcing her to run outside to save Betsy from the person. When she gets there, she sees herself sitting with an injured Betsy. That version of her takes over, and she calls out to Linus, who soon comes to her. However, all he sees is her sitting there alone, pantomiming with her hands as if she were holding someone. She gets scorned for her nonsensical behavior. Later, we see her talking to Dr. Sutter about Adelaide. Once she mentions where she lives, he becomes somewhat taken aback by it. He tries to assure her it isn't a problem, but we can see that it is. In the next scene, the doctor talks to the stranger at a bar. The man is Harry Reid. Sutter doesn't want to sit back while another family passes away, which is why they are communicating. Then Bishop Malachi enters. There is an instant tension between him and Harry, like two forces that oppose each other. Harry tells him that too much power corrupts anyone. With it, one can become like the bishop. Seeing Sutter speaking with Harry, Malachi tells him that he was taken in by a fraud. He also says something about Harry being responsible for the drowning of a young girl. Harry denies such an occurrence. What he wants to know is why Malachi placed that family inside the house. Not answering him, the bishop threatens him instead, telling him he will place him in a dark cell if he does not leave. Before leaving the bar, he advises Sutter to find a new friend. At that point, Harry stands to mock the bishop for being associated with the nonsense. After that, we observe Harry on a bridge, making strange movements. He hallucinates hearing a girl in trouble. Perhaps it is true what Malachi said about him. Meanwhile, Linus enters the tomb he did not enter earlier. We don't know what he finds there, but he does look around. Near the bridge, two individuals come to Harry and start beating him. The bishop watches it from inside his car. It is certainly an inappropriate action for a man of God to order. Afterward, Betsy comes to Marion to give her a paper on where she should go. She knows about the strangeness of the house they inhabit. So Marion goes to the place, where she finds an injured Harry upstairs. Upon seeing him, she instantly thinks it was a bad idea to come there. But he prevents her from leaving by asking if she saw things in her house. He continues by saying he has been investigating her house for some time. He also knows her daughter was born out of wedlock. Once Marion starts saying who Adelaide is, Harry interrupts her to say she isn't that. He wants her to stop lying. Furthermore, he says the house she lives in feeds on the lies she tells others. It turns family members against each other. At that moment, she asks who he is, but he wants to know who she really is instead. The house uses her shame against her, according to Harry. If she doesn't leave, her shame will destroy her. Harry seems to know a decent amount of information about her, though can he be trusted? He opposes the church, yet he seems to want to help the family. When Linus returns home, he hears something downstairs. It prompts him to go there. Soon enough, he witnesses Marion engaging in intimacy with someone he can't see. Then they disappear. He comes back up, flabbergasted by what he saw. Shortly after, his wife returns with a book, and he asks her where she's been. He thinks she was with Harry, the man he calls a fraud. But she defends herself by saying there are strange happenings in their house. Linus, however, insists that the man she came to see poisons people's minds. He tries to take the book from her, but she doesn't let him. During a sermon at the church, Linus hears voices. Marion is there too. Following her service, she comes home to look at the book Harry gave her. Yet she is prevented from doing so upon hearing someone there. After she hides it, Malachi enters, saying he wants to talk to her about a personal matter. He tells her she was pregnant and ashamed to return to her family. She also stayed at an asylum. The bishop wants to know what it was that she could tell a priest, but not a doctor. She responds that a doctor told her Adelaide had miscarried inside her. That is why she became mentally ill. However, she was lied to because Marion felt the baby's kick. What she asked of the priest was to hide her until Adelaide was born. Malachi, however, knows what happened. The priest did not help. He was responsible for her entering the asylum. Unbeknownst to Marion, Malachi came to visit her there while she was sedated. He was the one who got her daughter back to her. There, she also met Linus. After the bishop tells her this, she wants to know what he wants. He wants her to not seek out Harry, who he considers to be full of lies. In addition to that, he doesn't want her to leave the house. Then, Marion searches for her daughter. Not finding her in the house, she enters the basement, where she hears a scream. Shortly after, she hears Adelaide talking to someone. Walking further inside, she encounters a monstrous lady. This frightens her to not continue. Where she goes next is into Adelaide's room to find her in bed. She tosses the strange dolls down and tells her daughter she doesn't want her to play with them anymore. As Marion is leaving, the girl calls her by her name, which upsets her. Again, Adelaide says that someone else is her mother. This other person told her that Marion will take them away from the house, yet she doesn't want to leave. Once Marion exits her room, 3 robed figures appear near the girl's bed. With the paranormal activities rising, Marion finds it harder to deal with the situation, so she goes to vomit in the washroom. While there, her most haunting problem, her past pregnancy, manifests itself to Marion as a hallucination. After she returns to her senses, she finds Adelaide near the mirror. The girl points for her mother to look back. She looks to see several of herself attached to walls. One of them becomes the current her, watching as someone approaches the mirror to enter it. Adelaide follows this ghostly person. When she does, Marion falls off the wall. She comes to the mirror and calls out to Adelaide, who only waves in return. Unsure of what to do now, she rushes to Linus to inform him of what's going on. But to add to the unwanted happenings, she finds him indulging in alcohol. He mocks his wife by saying Adelaide was taken by the house. She tries taking the drink from him, yet his rude behavior makes her unsuccessful. This forces her to come to Harry for help. The man agrees to do it without hesitation. Meanwhile, Linus walks, drunk, looking for Betsy. A robed man soon appears near him, who Linus orders to find the housemaid. Shortly after Harry and Marion enter the house, they find Betsy lifeless. Marion comes to her husband, who keeps repeating the phrase "clean it up" like a madman. This prompts Harry to tell her that Linus did not murder Betsy, he is a victim of the house. Since he is currently a victim, Marion grabs him and demands to know where Adelaide is. Her asking isn't working, so Harry tells her to get something that belongs to her daughter. Marion goes to retrieve her doll, which she finds hanging on a chair. While she is gone, Harry holds Linus, telling him to show Harry what he sees. We see three robed figures holding a lady down. One of them is about to cut her. Upon returning, Marion finds Linus in a different state. Harry gives her the unsettling news that the monks are coming for her. He also says they ripped the lady open because she was pregnant. That lady is now the ghost, who has taken Adelaide as her own child. Then Harry asks Marion if she loves Linus. He follows by asking if she trusts Harry. To both questions, she answers that she does. This causes the man to start slapping Linus, to relinquish him of his possessed state. Once that is done, they all go to the basement, where Linus performs a ritual using Adelaide's doll. Marion seems to appear near the mirror, to see someone standing in the reflection. She turns around to see herself. Following that, she chases after the second version. Catching up to her, they both stop to look at something. It is a room containing several babies in cribs, except when she enters to look at them, she discovers they are all dolls. Before Marion can process the oddness of the event, she hears her daughter playing a game in the darkness. Entering it, she soon comes to the mirror, where she observes herself restrained by the monks. One of them tells her to confess her sins. Since she does not, he does it for her. Marion, however, says she cherishes the night she had with Adelaide's father. Her words prompt the monk to collect a cleaver. He starts cutting with it, stating that he has sinned, but she feels no shame. All three of them are shameful to her. After she tells them this, it seems to free her from the situation. She appears now in a red hallway, where she asks to have her daughter back. The lights turn off in response to her demand. She resorts to using a flashlight. Soon enough, she finds Adelaide standing with the ghostly lady. She doesn't fight. She does not even speak. Marion promises the lady that she will give her and her child a proper burial. After saying a few more comforting words, we see there is no longer any conflict between them. At another time, the family gives the burial that Marion promised to give. Harry is there to help. Adelaide offers her doll to the mother and daughter, which Harry places inside. Linus finishes the burial by saying a prayer. However, at night, the situation turns foul. Two people dig up the grave, who are ordered to do so by Bishop Malachi. We see him place the bones into a container. Then he arrives in Germany to deliver them to the Nazis. The final scene has Linus giving a sermon at the church. He says that the only way for evil to win is for good people to do nothing. So he asks the people to pray that such evil does not spread further. Marion sits there with Adelaide, who is holding another doll. What fate will befall the people with such a sinister ending? Those in power indulge themselves in the ways of evil, while those beneath them are fearful to fight back. That is why we received that closing statement from Linus, that good people have to fight back.